Today's video, I'm going to show you the process of making the veneers for the points for the pull cues. I'm going to show you all the steps that I use and the tools that I made to press them tight. I'm going to start here with this veneer, just so you can see it. Popular dyed. I cut it on a paper cutter. The size, I usually go about 12 inches with my points, 12 inches long. And then just cut them like that. So I get them about 12 inches long. These are the three that we're going to be using. They're 12 inches long. Make sure they're long enough for the V groove, the points. I'm going to use three colors, a black, a white, and a black. It makes pretty nice veneers. Then I have three pieces. I'm going to use these to make the ring work, to match the veneers that's going to go in the points. I'm going to make the ring work out of these three. This is what ring work is. This is a billet. And then when you make your rings for your cue, you cut these off. And then you get the rings for your cue. And so the three that I just showed you will be glued up to the billet, and then the glued up pieces will go into the billet like this, fairly tight, not too tight, but fairly tight. They'll make them to go all the way down the billet to make the rings, which looks like that when it's turned. So the process that we're going to do here, I'm going to move the camera forward a little bit so you can see this, hopefully. I made this plate. It's a press. This is a 3/4 inch thick aluminum plate, 12 by 12. I put a piece of parchment paper on to protect this so the glue won't get all over it. I use the West system, and I'm going to start with the black piece first and put it on there. I fold the edges of my parchment paper up like that so I can fold it over so the glue won't come out on my plate when I'm finished. So what I use is the West system. And I already got it mixed up. I'm going to put some of that on here. Basically like that. And just take a brush, spread it around. Let it soak in there, get it all around there really good. Hopefully you can see all this. The glue's kind of thick because it's a little chilly out here today. Well, it's not glue, it's actually a resin. It's the West system, 2-part. Most of this will soak right in. I'm just trying to make sure I get it all covered pretty good. This will make the veneers for the points. This is going to be part 3 of the video. I cut the points the other day, which if you're following, you've seen that. Put a little more of this good stuff on there. I'll talk more about the jig here that I made for this when we get this glued up. You can see how it works. Just try to get a nice kind of, make sure it's covered really good. So the next part to that then is to put the white one on. And I'll tell you why I use this sequence in a minute. Just lay that on top of that one. Don't have to be perfect, but pretty close. They're cut the same size, so you want to make them pretty close so you can use most of this for your point veneers. That's pretty good. A little bit here. They're not cut 100% straight, but they're pretty good. We'll do another coat of this. Like I said, the resin's kind of cold. If it's warmer, it goes on a lot easier. It spreads out a lot nicer. But we'll get through it. I use quite a bit of this because it soaks into the veneer. It's starting to get warmer now that I've got it going a little bit, so it spreads out a lot nicer. And it's pretty thick. Because it's going to soak into this, and this little hair on there still. Get rid of that. A couple of them. That's the trouble with these little brushes. They got these little hairs in them. I try to go through them and make sure they're all gone. Those out best you can. We'll get it all on here and then we'll go back over it, get them all out. Make sure you try to get it all covered. We'll get those black things out of there in a minute. If the brush is little things come out of there, the bristles. Well, they're just little cheap throwaway acid brushes is what they really are. So it's not like a expensive brush where you got good stuff, but I'm going to throw this one away, get another one. I usually have a couple on hand here. What we're going to do here now is put the other black one on top of this one. Just like that. Then what we're going to do is fold these edges over to keep the resin from coming out on the jig that I made. I'll explain that jig to you in a minute and a couple other jigs. Going to fold that over. It's just going to catch the squeeze out glue that comes out of that. We're going to put another piece on top. This is parchment paper. Works really good for this because nothing sticks to it. So the resin don't stick. Nothing sticks to it. I've even used this over before. And just kind of like, just fold it over. Don't have to be perfect. This ain't gonna press out pretty tight. So I've got the tops of this jig. It's pretty heavy. 3/4 solid aluminum. I put that on top. This is my press. Now, I'm gonna move the camera back just a little bit. That's the press. So what I did was I drilled 6 3/8/16 bolts into this, put nuts on it. You can't really think about all the time exactly what you want to say. It's kind of a funny thing when you're making a video. You think you got everything ready, but you don't. But anyway, these are studs, 3/8 studs. They're 2 inches long. So I just drilled 3 on each side, 2 pieces of aluminum that I had cut at the local machine shop. Wasn't that expensive. Well, this is going to be the press, to press that all flat, push all that resin down into the wood. I'm going to tighten these up, just get it started there with low pressure on it, try to get it even. And that's going to press this resin into this veneers. Like I said, it's popular wood dyed, and that's what they call the veneers. When I press it down tight, I'm going to leave it in here for at least a day, maybe 2. Let this cure out. It's like a book press almost. This is something you can make yourself though, because like I said, most pull cue makers make their own tools. It's just part of the job. There's a lot of people who do this. You've probably seen this maybe on YouTube or somewhere. But I've been doing it this way for a long time. I'll do the same process for the ring work pieces that I showed you. This same thing. And this is thick enough that it don't warp around the middle of this very much. I mean, everything warps just a little bit. But I'm going to leave that go right there. So that's pretty tight, and it's squishing that resin out. Squishing that resin out of that and making that so that'll be nice and flat. The resin goes in. And then, like I said, we'll do a glue up on these 3 next to make the inlays or the veneers for these 2 that we cut the other day that I showed you in part 2 of this series. So I have, I'll show you this process after we get going, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut these veneers into strips. This is not the one we're using, but I'm just showing you this. We're going to cut them into strips. We're going to slot these. We're going to run a cutter down through these on another jig I'm going to show you. And then I'm going to show you about the jig that was made to fold these up so they're 90 degrees to make it look like this. To glue up so it'll fit in there and make a perfect 90 degree. That's going to be the jig that we're going to use to do that. So I'm not going to make this video real long, but we're going to use those black, white, black. And the reason we're using the white, the black, the white, and the black is because we're starting with the black because the wood is light. If I use the light color and I put my points in, you wouldn't hardly see them because it would go into the light color of the wood. You wouldn't hardly see them. But by using the black first, the first cut, the black's going to stand out. So you're going to really see it on the point. And that's why we're using black first, white, and then black, because I'm also going to put maple points into this, and I'll show you that whole thing. But this is part 3 of making this, and I'm trying to show you step by steps, so if you want to do this down the road, you can. I know pool cue makers, they already know all this, so basically this is for you guys who want to learn to make pool cues, and you can do this if you want to. So that's the process. I'll show you the jigs. I can show you the jig now that we're going to use to cut these veneers so they fold up to make a perfect 90. Hold on just a second. This is the cutter that we're going to use to do that. And what we do is we cut our veneers in 1.5 inch strips, somewhere close to that, and they fold up underneath this here. They slide in, then you tighten them down and then run your cutter down the middle where you can see the slot right there where I've run the cutter down. And that cuts these perfectly, so when you put them in the jig that I showed you a minute ago, this one, then they fold up nice, and you got room for all 4 of your points. These are going to be the lows in these 2 cues that I've showed you. They're going to be the low points, and then we're going to cut the 4 highs in later. So if you want to see what's going on, this is 3. The next video is going to be 4, but if you follow and subscribe, you won't miss any. If you already know how to do all this, you can also, if it's a long video is too long, you can fast forward through this, get to the parts you want to see of this. But I try to show you in detail so you know exactly what's going on. And like I said, that's the cutter that I cut it on, just a paper cutter. And that's the veneer that we haven't used yet. And then that's the press. You can make this press yourself really easy. Doesn't take much. All right, that's today's video. Thanks for watching.